So we have simultaneously record UK private AI investment, record public AI research investment, the most significant NHS digital transformation in a generation, and the first meaningful dental contract reform in over a decade, all happening at the same time. And dental AI is almost entirely absent from the institutional investment conversation. This is the TechDental podcast, the strategic intelligence hub for leaders shaping the dental industry. We break down how AI, data, and operating discipline drive performance and scale. I'm Dr. Randeep. Let's dive in. Welcome back to TechDental. This is the podcast where we examine how artificial intelligence, data, and emerging technology are structurally changing dentistry. Not the hype, not the vendor pitches, the actual systems, the actual strategy, and the real commercial implications for the people running and building in this industry. Today is a solo episode, and I want to make a case that I have not heard anyone else making, at least not in the precise way I think it needs to be made. The title of this episode is The £6 billion Blind Spot: Why UK Capital is Missing the Dental AI Opportunity. If you work in Healthtech investment, UK health policy, or if you are building at the intersection of AI and primary care, then this episode is specifically for you. Let me start with where the money actually went in 2025. UK startups raised £17.5 billion across more than 2,000 deals last year. This is a remarkable number given the macroeconomic environment. But the headline figure understates what is actually happening, because AI dominated the year in a way that nothing has dominated UK venture capital before. AI startups raised more than £6 billion, over a third of all UK venture capital, the highest share ever recorded. And critically, the capital was not spread evenly. Rounds above £25 million accounted for more than 70% of all VC deployed, the highest proportion in a decade. What that concentration tells you is that investors are not simply chasing the AI theme. They are making deliberate bets on commercially proven models in AI native verticals. SaaS and AI-enabled platforms in Healthtech, FinTech, and data infrastructure dominated the allocation. Simultaneously, in February of this year, UKRI published its first ever AI strategy, backed by a record £1.6 billion in targeted funding. That is UKRI's single largest investment area for the period 2026 to 2030. The strategy explicitly targets healthcare as a priority. It commits to funding AI-enabled drug discovery, AI tools for diagnostics, and the infrastructure that makes AI adoption across the NHS possible. In July 2025, the NHS 10-year health plan was published. It commits to investing in NHS AI infrastructure, publishing a new regulatory framework for AI as a medical device, launching an AI upskilling program across the NHS workforce, and reforming the dental contract from 2026 to 27. So we have simultaneously record UK private AI investment, record public AI research investment, the most significant NHS digital transformation in a generation, and the first meaningful dental contract reform in over a decade, all happening at the same time. And dental AI is almost entirely absent from the institutional investment conversation. UKRI has committed £1.6 billion to AI. The NHS has committed to AI infrastructure and dental contract reform in the same document. And the analytical bridge between those two commitments simply does not exist yet. That is not a problem, that is a category. Let me explain why dental is structurally different from the other primary care verticals that are attracting capital. The global dental AI market was valued at $459.6 million in 2024. It is projected to reach $3.26 billion by 2034 at a compound annual growth rate of 21.78%. Workflow automation applications within that are growing at 22.6%. NLP applications at 24.4%. But those numbers, useful as they are, do not capture the structural logic that makes dental AI compelling as a UK investment thesis specifically. Here is that logic. First, the patient relationship is recurring. Dental patients interact with their practice multiple times per year. That creates a data asset that accumulates over time and a recurring revenue model that scales predictably. Second, the majority of UK dental revenue is already private. The UK private dentistry market was valued at £8.4 billion in 2023-24, the highest proportion from private services on record. Unlike hospital or NHS GP services, the dental sector does not require NHS procurement cycles to commercialize. The customers are already paying. Third, consolidation is accelerating. The DSO and group practice model is growing rapidly in the UK. That means the sector is developing enterprise customers, operators running 10, 20, 50, 100 plus sites, who have both the scale to adopt technology and the commercial imperative to differentiate on operational efficiency and clinical quality. And fourth, the data asset is almost entirely underutilized. Appointment history, treatment records, imaging, clinical notes, financial flows across practices. This is one of the richest longitudinal datasets in primary care, and almost none of it is connected, analyzed, or used to drive decisions at the operator level. Those four characteristics, recurring revenue, already private, consolidating and data rich, are precisely what UK AI investors say they are looking for in a vertical, SaaS, or AI platform opportunity. The mismatch between what investors say they want and what they are currently funding is the gap. I want to spend some time on the policy architecture because I think it contains the clearest articulation of why the dental AI opportunity is so specifically time sensitive right now. The UKRI AI strategy names healthcare as a priority. It funds drug discovery, diagnostics, and clinical trial acceleration. It commits to AI test beds across the NHS. Dental is not mentioned once in the strategy document. The NHS 10-year plan commits to dental contract reform, replacing the deeply dysfunctional UDA system with a capitated model focusing on oral health outcomes. It separately commits to investing in NHS AI infrastructure. Those two commitments appear in different sections of the same document and are never connected. What the contract reform actually means is this. For the first time, dental operators will have financial incentives tied to patient health outcomes rather than activity volume. That shift rewards operators who can measure and demonstrate outcomes at scale. The only practical way to do that across a multi-site group is with data infrastructure and AI-enabled analytics. The operators who build that capability before the contract changes are enforced enter 2027 with a structural advantage. The operators who delay face the same transition on a compressed timeline with fewer options and higher implementation costs. This is not a prediction about which this is not a prediction. It is a structural observation about the relationship between policy timing and technology adoption cycles. The MHRA is also preparing a new regulatory framework for AI as a medical device to be published in 2026. The NHS 10-year plan explicitly states that the government will work with the MHRA to make the UK the fastest and safest place to regulate AI in healthcare. That is a direct signal to founders and investors. Build now, because the regulatory environment is being designed to accelerate adoption, not restrict it. The dental contract reform creates financial incentives for outcomes measurement at scale. The UKRI strategy funds AI infrastructure. The MHRA is designing a regulatory framework that accelerates AI adoption, and none of these three commitments is connected to the others in any policy document, any investment thesis, or any research agenda. That is the gap, and it is going to close. But the landscape is starting to change. Recently launched initiatives like Enterprise Britain have mandates to identify the sectors where UK capital ambition is being underdeployed and to make the case for changing that. 74% of Britons surveyed at launch believe the UK's economic position is declining. The founding argument is that the UK has the talent, the technology, and the market position, but that policy and capital are not yet aligned with the scale of ambition required. I want to put a specific sector on the table for that conversation. Dental AI. Not because it is an aspirational bet, but because it is a commercially mature category with a structural window that is open now and will not stay open indefinitely. Here's what I think happens in the next 3 years. The operators who invest in AI-enabled financial intelligence, patient outcome analytics, and workflow automation before the 2027 contract deadline will enter the new contract regime with measurable clinical and operational data. That data becomes a commercial asset in negotiations with ICBs, in conversations with private equity, and in post-acquisition standardization across groups. The founders who build the infrastructure layer for dental AI in the UK now, and who understand the commercial logic of the sector, not just the technology, will be building the platforms that DSOs and group operators need to compete in the post-contract reform environment. And the investors who do the analytical work to understand dental as a capital allocation category in 2026 will look back on this moment as the early mover window. The capital is there. The policy direction is set. The commercial demand is building. What is missing is the analytical bridge, the intelligence work that connects those three things into a coherent investment and operating thesis. The work is happening now. Let me leave you with three numbers and a question. 6 billion UK AI venture capital in 2025, record high. 1.6 billion UKRI's AI investment commitment for 2026 to 2030, largest single area. $459.6 million, the current value of the global dental AI market, growing at nearly 22% per year. And it remains almost entirely absent from UK institutional investment analysis. The question, is that a market failure, a timing lag, or a category that is simply waiting for the right capital to find it? I think it's the third. And I think the window is narrower than most people assume. If you want to go deeper on the investment thesis, on the policy architecture, or on what this means for operators, subscribe, follow, and share. I'm Dr. Randeep, and this is TechDental. You've been listening to the TechDental podcast, Strategic Intelligence for Dental Leaders Navigating Structural Change. If you're responsible for growth, performance, or long-term value in this industry, make sure you're subscribed. I'm your host, Dr. Randeep. We'll see you next week.